Hello, it's me, Steady Eddie from the YouTube, and today we are going to be going over the Templar changes in the High Isle PTS. I'm going to go over both Stamina and Magicka Templar and what the changes mean for both classes in terms of how you might build from a PvP's perspective. The major change for Templar this patch is that Living Dark has been nerfed, which I'm very happy about because everyone can get off my class. No, it's fine. No, I am happy when something that's so overpowered gets nerfed. And it's going to be interesting what happens to the build. So stick around, watch the video. If you like it, do all the YouTube stuff, like and subscribe, whatever. Let's get into it. So, as I said, the major change for Templar this patch is that Living Dark no longer scales with stats and instead heals for a base of 2000 health when it triggers. This means that the value that it heals you for can't be changed. It's a flat amount of 2000. Add Battle Spirit to that and it heals for around 1000 per tick. This is of course dependent on whether you have Minor Mending, Vitality or any similar healing percentage modifier, because that does still affect the incoming healing. Remember also that it can tick up to every 0.5 seconds, so with all of that, it ends up roughly at about 2000 healing per second in PvP. Some people have said this is it, Templar is dead. I actually, even just before recording this, I saw that Deltia has jokingly put out a video saying, is this the Templar Burial 2.0? I'm sure even he doesn't believe that. I haven't watched his video yet. I don't think it's true. I think Templar is still going to be strong, so let's get into why. So for Stamina Templar doesn't even necessarily need Living Dark. In fact, at the start of the latest patch, I didn't even run it. This was before I realized how ridiculously OP it is and just how much survivability it brings. But this doesn't mean that it was impossible to survive without it. It just meant that because the skill was so ridiculously OP, you were being silly if you weren't to slot it. One of the potential options for High Isle is to run Restoration Staff back bar and run Radiating Regen instead of Living Dark. Radiating Regen ticks for about 2 to 2.1k every second based off the builds I was testing. However, it also lasts for 10 seconds instead of the 4 seconds that Living Dark does. This means that your Magicka sustain improves and you can spam Cleanse or Toppling Charge a bit more. The problem with this is that Restoration Staff passives aren't that great for Templar. The only one that's kind of useful is heavy attacking with the Restoration Staff to give major mending. Doing this just before your rally can give you a big burst heal. Other than that, the passives are kind of useless. Sword and Board passives on the other hand give you reduced block cost as well as increased block mitigation, as well as giving you the option to heavy attack to gain stamina on your back bar. This increases your stamina sustain massively. The problem with having to slot either Radiating Regen or Living Dark is that you don't have space to slot a snare immunity skill such as Race Against Time. And so sometimes, depending on who you're fighting, you might be repeatedly snared and not be able to move as fast as you would like. Sword and Board helps in these situations as it gives you the option to block a lot more, whereas Restoration Staff might struggle. A set I've been looking at is Robes of the Hist. This set heals you for 2000 HP every 1 second for 5 seconds after being hit by a disabling effect, immobilization or snare. So in PvP with Battle Spirit, this is around 1000 to 1200 per tick, again dependent on whether you have your Minor Mending up and so on. Although this is less than both Living Dark and Radiating Regen, it means I could drop both and instead run Race Against Time. This gives me a snare immunity skill, but also more importantly Minor Force, which increases my crit damage by 10%. This is incredibly valuable when I'm running Mechanical Acuity on my front bar, which has become a meta set for Templar. It also means that my Magicka sustain is better to the point that I can drop Tripods and instead go back to my favourite potion of all time, which are Health, Stamina and Physical Resistance, so I reach an easy 32k resistances on my back bar. I don't know if Robes of the Hist will be a meta set, as it's so early in the PTS. It's also difficult to tell what will be useful in a battleground or a Cyrodiil scenario because you can only test with jewels. Generally, builds end up being a collective effort. You suggest one thing, someone tries it and someone else builds on it. It might be that I end up just using Rallying Cry and realise that I don't need something to make up for the loss of Living Dark after all, but it's still something that's interesting to think about. Having said that, and this is when we get onto Magplar, I could see Robes of the Hist being really strong on Magplar. Magplar relies more on Living Dark than Templar does, as it can't roll and avoid damage as much as Templar can, especially since it's become kind of essential to run a restoration staff back bar. I've been testing the set on PTS to see, but I just worry that it might result in a lack of damage for Magplar. Maybe I just love Hist, I don't know, I just want to wear Hist all the time. But I could see Lightning Staff and a Sword and Board making a return for Magplar while using Mist Form. This was the meta for Magplar in the past because their heal over times weren't strong enough. However, since the patch where Zos added 1000 base weapon and spell damage, Living Dark became as powerful as it currently is. With its nerf, it might not be strong enough to carry the tankiness of Magplar without Mist Form. I find Magplar hard to test on PTS. The thing is that it's generally always been a pretty strong dueling build, and so no matter what you run, it's always going to feel tanky in a duel setting because you can camp in your rune, you can camp in your cleanse. You don't have the liberty of that in Cyrodiil or in Battlegrounds. And so it's hard to tell what you might need to supplement the Living Dark loss on Magplar on the PTS. Robes of the Hist might be good for it, but it might be that Radiating Regen can end up carrying your healing. It might be that you end up going back to Mist Form. Overall, I don't think the Living Dark change is as much of a blow as people are making it out to be. I don't even think the skill is dead. 2000 healing per second shouldn't be underestimated. I just think it's simply another option now, rather than being a skill that you just have to run no matter what. You might run it, you might not. I just think it's a viable option now. Templar is still going to have healing coming from Extended Ritual, Rune, and then Vigor or Radiating Regen, as well as access to one of the best burst heals in the game with Honor the Dead. It's still going to be up there as one of the most powerful classes in the game. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. And if you enjoy the video, like and subscribe, like and subscribe, like and subscribe, like and subscribe. Like and subscribe, please. Please, I need you to like and subscribe, please. I'm begging you. I'm begging you.